How are you? My name is Edward. It's my English name. My Korean name is Usok. I'm the
Coach
bookkeeper.
Usak? Coach Usak?
Yeah, yeah, Usok.
Hey.
네, that's my name. My English name Edward. 정말 이걸 뭐라고 이야기를 표현을 해야 될지 모르겠는데요. 또 하나의 작은 기적이 또 책추남 TV에 또 일어난 일이 된 것 같습니다. 너무 그 유명하신 시크릿으로 유명하신 우리 시크릿의 멘토 중 한 분으로 손꼽히시는 우리 마이클 바귀트 박사님 함께 이 자리에 인터뷰하게 된 첫 시간입니다. 여러분 이렇게 시크릿 아시죠? 시크릿에 보시면은 우리 마이클 박사님이 이렇게 여기 나와 계세요. 여기 이게 코리안 버전, 예, 한국 세계에서는 이렇게 나와 계시고요. 또 제가 소개드렸던 마음의 힘이라는 책에서 보시면은 또 박사님이 여기 다른 헤어스타일로 여기 나오시거든요. 그래서 이렇게 이 책에서는 이렇게 또 네, 헤어스타일로 나와 계시고 또 제가 소개드렸던 책 중에서 또 여기 오프라 윈프리 쇼에도 이제 또 함께 하셔서 참 여러 가지 책에서 간접적으로 제가 뵀었는데 갑자기 이렇게 인터뷰를 함께 하면 좋겠다는 또 좋은 요청이 오셔서 이 자리에 모셨습니다. 간략하게 우리 박사님을 소개해 드리면요. 시크릿에 나오는 내용 그대로 제가 소개해 드릴게요. 마이클 버나드 베기스, 그래서 베기스 박사는 아가페 국제 영혼센터를 설립했다. 현재 센터 회원이 인근 지역만 1만 명에 이르고 세계적으로는 수십만의 동맹과 친구가 생겼다. 베기스 박사는 달라이라마, 모한다스 간디의 손자 아룬 간디, 스리랑카의 대표적 농촌 봉사단체 샤르보다야의 설립자 AT, 아리아 라트네 같은 영적 인사들과 함께 국제 패널에서 활동하고 있다. 세계 신사상을 위한 모임 공동 설립자이기도 하다. 연례 모임에서는 과학자와 경제학자와 예술가와 영적 지도자들이 모여 인류가 잠재력을 최대한 발휘하도록 이끌기 위해 노력하고 있다. 또 제가 살펴보니까요. 유엔 연설도 하신 영상도 이제 한국에서도 번역이 되어 있고요. 베기스 박사는 명상과 과학적 기도 방법을 가르치고 명상 캠프를 열며 세미나와 회담에서 강연을 한다. 인생 설계 프로세스의 아이디어를 낸 사람이고 가슴에서 우러난 영감, 40일간의 마음 단식 영혼 잔치, 평화 선언을 쓴 저자이다. 책추남이 이번에 또 함께 책을 곧 한국에서 출간되는 책의 이름이 이제 영적 자유라는 또 책을 쓰셔서 오늘 거기에 관한 질문도 드릴 예정이고요. 네, 우리 자세한 내용은 www.agape.live.com으로 접속해서 알아보자. 이렇게 되어 있습니다. 이런 귀하신 분 자리에 모실 수 있어서 네. 그리고 책추남 TV의 사실 첫 영상 인터뷰는 처음입니다. 그래서 제가 주로 얼굴을 보여주지 않고 목소리로만 하는데요. 이 자리에 이렇게 모실 수 있어서 감사합니다.
Your English name is Edward, but
My English name is Edward.
yes, I'd say thank you so much for the invitation to be with you today, early in the morning for you and afternoon for me. And it's my joy to touch heart to heart and to see what happens in this conversation. I appreciate the invitation. Absolutely.
먼저 저희 구독자들이 우리 박사님께 궁금해 하시는 거는 뭐니 해도 시크릿에 관한 내용을 궁금해 하실 것 같아요. 시크릿이 나온 이후로 이제 1억 부가 넘게 팔린 걸로 지금 이렇게 제가 기억을 하고 있는데요. 근데 이제 시크릿을 많은 분들이 원하나 하지만 실제적으로 시크릿을 제대로 활용하거나 진짜 이해하는 경우가 좀 드문 것 같거든요. 오히려 그 에고의 어떤 그냥 욕심만으로 이 시크릿들을 활용하는 그런 케이스. 그래서 실제로 열매를 맺지 못하거나 혹은 열매를 맺더라도 그 이후에 어떤 부작용들을 이제 많이 이렇게 적용하는 경우가 오히려 더 많은데요. 이 시크릿에 관해서 좀 더 깊이 있게 좀 설명을 좀 부탁드려 보고 싶습니다.
That's a beautiful question, and it's a place where I teach from often. Anything can be used positively or negatively. You can use electricity to create a light, or you can use electricity to create damage. So it's neutral. So there are many people who become addicted to the law of attraction for ego desires. They have what I call immature wanting. They want things that society tells them should have, particularly in the Western world, where we see a lot of commercialization and materialization, and they can use the law to get these things and still not be happy. Now, the real law of attraction means that I'm using the law to become a better version of myself. It's really, I am coming into a feeling that my needs are met. I'm coming into a feeling that I'm connected to a presence of love and beauty and intelligence. That feeling becomes so real that it changes my thoughts, my speech, and my actions. So what I bring into manifestation comes with a greater version of myself. So many people are trying to use the law to get something while they stay the same. But the real law of attraction is the law of radiation. I'm feeling something within myself. I'm radiating it, and I keep growing into better versions of myself. So it's about me growing and becoming more conscious of the genius and the beauty that's within, rather than I'm going to stay little and get what I think I want from this sense of littleness.
너무 감사하게 너무 잘 이해를 했는데요. 너무 그 중요한 말씀을 주신 것 같아요. 그래서 근데 그 부분에 있어서 그렇다면은 아 어떻게 Law of Attraction을 실제적으로 우리 삶에 제대로 활용할 수 있을지에 대해서 한번 좀 여쭤보고 싶어요. 그래서 우리 박사님 영상 하나 본 것 중에 또 굉장히 인상 깊게 본 것 중에 하나가 visualization하고 visioning하고 이거를 또 나눠서 설명해 주신 부분도 있는데요. 그런 것과 함께 연관해서 어떻게 그러면 제대로 이 끌어당김의 법칙을 제대로 활용할 수 있을지에 관해서 좀 말씀을 주시면 우리 구독자분들께서 네, 큰 도움을 얻으실 것 같아요.
Very, very good question. The beginning stages of metaphysics beyond the physical realm is visualization, where you see and you feel something that you desire until you feel that it's already happening and that it manifests. The limitation of just visualization is that whatever it is you visualize, it may be outdated when it manifests, or as I said earlier, you may stay the same and not grow, but get things that you think you need at that time. Visioning is different. Visioning states that there is a destiny within us all. There is intelligence and love and beauty and abundance. It's within us already. So visioning says, it uses empowering questions like, what is it within me that wants to emerge? What gift do I have to give to the world that I can now share? So so I'm asking for my destiny to come forward rather than for me to get my immature wants manifested. I'm asking what's within me that wants to come forward. What's within me, what's within all of us is unique, beyond compare to anyone else. And this keeps us from staying stuck and getting immature wants manifested, and it allows for what our soul wants to come forward. What is our destiny? What has been placed within us that's the world can't stop once we say yes to it. So visualization is the beginning step to learn about the law, and then visioning is the next level of transformation. It's a transformational technology for us to become more and never less than our true self, which includes health, well-being, prosperity. It includes all of that. But it's not from the ego's clutching and trying to get stuff to be happy. It's about us tapping into our innate joy and happiness already, and then asking the right questions so that we can become better versions of ourselves.
데일리 라이프에 그래서 제대로 이해하고 제대로 적용할 수 있는 거를 조금 더 구체적으로 좀 여쭙고 싶은데요. 네, 그래서 먼저 이제 이건지 이게 true self인 건지 우리의 또 저 큰 나 어떤 이런 것들을 그러니까 내가 뭔가를 원한다라고 이야기하지만 이게 진짜 내 작은 나 혹은 이거에서 오는 건지 내 큰 나에서 오는 진짜 우리가 그 내 넥스트 단계를 바라볼 수 있는 그건지를 구분을 어떻게 할까요? 에고의 욕심인지 정말 셀프의 어떤 소망인지 이것을 먼저 그 끌어당김의 법칙을 발생시키기 전에 이것을 분별할 수 있는 게 우선인 것 같은데요. 그걸 어떻게 분별할 수 있을까요?
That's beautiful. That's something we grow into. The ego is always putting the small self in the starring position. It's always about me, I. Your higher self includes everyone. It's whatever it is that you desire is for the highest and best interest of everyone. So the I, which is in the word illness, goes to we, which is in the word wellness. So you go from the I to the we. The ego doesn't really deal with we. The ego deals with I only. So when you're growing and unfolding, you ask yourself, you're asking yourself, is this in the highest and best interest of everyone, not just little old me, but for everyone, my family, my friends, my associates, everyone that I work with. I want to bring something into manifestation that's that's for everyone, doesn't take away from anybody, but it helps everybody. So the higher self thinks and knows that we're all connected. We're all one, springing from the same source of all creation. The ego is a loner. The ego is not your amigo. It's not your friend. And and so we begin to grow from egotistic desires to a soul felt awareness that I have a gift, I have a talent, I have something to share, I have something to give. So one of the ways that we can protect ourselves from the ego taking over is coming to an awareness that we are here on this planet to make a contribution. We're not here to get anything because we have arrived with everything already within us. We have to learn to unpack it so that we can contribute, we can share, we can give, we can glow. Generosity. So the ego is trying to get, whereas the soul is trying to give.
하지만 이제 이 질문 제가 조금 더 들어가 볼게요. 하지만 어떤 경우에는 그런 대의명분을 내세우는 것조차도 그런 뭔가 좀 더 큰 나 이런 이야기를 할 때도 그것도 에고의 어떤 장난일 때가 있을 때가 있는 것 같거든요. 그러면 그런 것들은 어떻게 또 구분해야 될까요? 그러니까 설사 아무리 고상하고 고매한 비전, 뭐 콜링 어떤 이야기를 쓰더라도 뭐 이런 부분은 많은 어떤 영적 지도자들의 삶을 봐도 그것들이 어떤 개인적 욕심으로 귀결되는 경우들이 있기 때문에 그 굉장히 미묘한 어떤 차이들이 있는 것 같거든요. 예, 그래서 그런 부분들은 어떻게 해볼 수 있을까요?
Right. You are correct. There are individuals who have started selfless or putting their attention on the real self, capital L self, capital S self, and then get caught up in their undertow of the ego because they start to believe in this small self-importance. They believe that they're so important or that they are better than other people or that there are certain people that are better than other people. So in our spiritual practice, we become keenly aware that everyone in the sight of the universal presence, by whatever name you want to call it, everyone is loved exactly the same, regardless of how much money a person has, regardless of where they were born, how much education they have or don't have. This presence that is never an absence, this of love intelligence, embraces us all the same. So we have to protect our mind so we don't fall into hierarchy thinking, where we think some people are more important than others, or that we are more important than other people. So that then keeps the ego at bay. So whenever one begins to think, oh, I'm really more important than everyone else because I have more followers or because I have more money, or, that's a slippery slope. It means that you're starting to get caught by the ego's perception of separation rather than by the soul's awareness of oneness. So this is why spiritual practice is so important, why meditation is so important, why introspection is so important, why going into our interior awareness and looking at the thoughts are so important, so that we're able to sift through and tell the difference between an ego thought and a thought that's emerging from wisdom or from love, kindness, and compassion. And this is why it's called a practice, so that the slippery slope of the ego doesn't take hold on us. So it's a daily practice until it just becomes a habit of seeing yourself as a servant. You know, you are a servant of the light. You're a servant of intelligence. You're a servant of love. And you're not trying to serve yourself, your little self. You're serving this light and love and beauty everywhere. And there's a lot more happiness there, a lot more joy. There's so many people who gain a lot in the world, but I counsel a lot of these people. They don't have a lot of happiness and joy because their identity is on what the ego has created for them. And they've lost their real identity, which is who and what they are as emanations of the infinite, you see. Yeah.
감사합니다. 이게 일단은 첫 번째로 에고와 셀프를 분별하는 첫 번째 지혜는 나만 이렇게 나만을 생각하는 것이냐라는 이야기 하나의 분별지를 주셨고, 그 두 번째 분별지 자체는 그것 자체가 내가 남보다 더 나은 사람이, 내가 당신보다 더 우월한 사람이, 내가 당신보다 무엇을 가졌기 때문에 지위가 높기 때문에 그런 생각들을 가지는 것 자체가 내가 그러고 있나 안 그러나를 나를 성찰하고 그걸 하기 위해서 매일매일의 메디테이션을 할 수 있다면 굉장히 좋겠다고 말씀을 주시니까 굉장히 우리 그 에고인가 셀프인가 그것을 구분하는 데 굉장히 큰 도움을 우리 독자들이 받으셨을 것 같고요. 그래서 두 번째 질문으로 자연히 넘어가 보면 저도 이제 좀 정신분석학이나 다양한 심층 심리학자를 공부하다 보니까 그럼 결국 이걸 작동시키는 것이 Law of Attraction을 작동시키는 것이 하나의 어떤 그 뭐라고 할까요? 무의식 혹은 잠재의식, 심지어는 또 그다음 초의식까지 이야기를 하고 있는데 제가 바라보는 관점에서는 우리가 그러한 부분들을 알라딘의 요술램프의 지니처럼 우리의 이야기를 그냥 들어주는 식으로 이제 이해를 하는데, 공부를 해보면 해볼수록 그런 건 좀 오해라는 생각이 들거든요. 그래서 박사님께서는 그런 우리의 잠재의식이나 무의식이나 시크릿에서 이제 좀 그렇게 이야기를 하는 경향이 있는 그런 부분들에 대해서는 어떻게 설명을 주실 수 있는지 좀 또 궁금합니다.
Many people have taught it that way in order to catch a popular audience, a way to reach a wide mass of audience to get them to come in. You can have it all. This is a little genie. You can rub it and you can have everything you want. And really, it's a little bit deeper than that. What happens is, as you begin to let's say practice the law of attraction, which I oftentimes call the law of radiation, because you're radiating something from within you. What's happening is when you're doing your affirmations, you're doing your visualization, you're getting in touch with an inner feeling of the thing you want, you're changing your subconscious mind. The subconscious is the part of you that's your law of your life. So if you have a subconscious belief that you're unworthy, as an example, then you can do a whole lot of work in the external world, but you'll sabotage yourself, or you'll create conditions that won't be apt for success. So doing the inner work, such as affirmation work, visualization work, curating feeling tone within yourself, you're starting to change the subconscious mind. So you're actually changing the law of your being. Everyone has their personal signature or how they use the law of life. And you begin to change it, and then things begin to change in your life. So it's not magic. It's actually inner work that's happening that allows you to become more conscious of who you are, even on a subconscious level. So let's say that, we have a big ocean and some people can't swim. Some people can swim very well. Some people can surf. Some people can go on a boat. They're all using the same ocean, but they're using it differently. So we're surrounded by this universal law, but we're all using it differently. Some are saying, I'm unworthy. Some are saying, I'm not good enough. Some are saying, it runs in my family that we can never be successful. So they're using the law subconsciously and unconsciously to keep good away from them. Other people are beginning to say, I matter. My life is the life of the infinite. I have a lot to give. Let me share it. So they're beginning to use the same law differently, but it's not magic. It's actually inner work, because this is what happens. When you begin to do this inner work, all of the thoughts and emotions that are hindering success, they come up to be seen and to be transmuted by your observation and by your intention. So you're literally becoming your own therapist by doing the inner work. And then change begins to happen. Consciously first, and then subconsciously. And then when the conscious and the subconscious agree, the superconscious takes over. You have a new relationship with the law of life. It's not just magic. I'm just going to rub this thing and get what I want. I've actually changed. I've actually grown. And then my relationship to the universal law has changed. Manifestation happens.
네, 이걸 아주 더 이해를 네, 일단은 좀 더 깊이 있는 이해를 알고, 아마 이거는 박사님과 좀 더 깊이 대화를 나눌수록 이제 좀 더 이해가 될 것 같은데, 일단은 우리 구독자분들도 박사님 주신 설명으로 여러분의 그 의식과 그다음에 잠재의식과 초의식이 이렇게 잘 관계를 맺게 될 때 그런 것들이 잘 나올 수 있다고 이제 말씀을 주셨다고 했는데, 일단은 그 부분을 여러분 좀 더 잘 좀 뭐라고 할까요? 분별 있게 이해하는 게 굉장히 중요할 거라고 또 생각이 드는데요. 그러면서 이제 또 제가 그다음 단계로 또 조금 더 질문을 가보면, 그래서 내가 바라는 게 있을 때 그 바라는 거를 원하면서도 디펙 초프라 박사님도 얘기하시듯이 바라는 걸 바라면서도 초연해야 할 때 그 일이 일어날 가능성이 더 높다. 이게 자연적으로 우리가 그걸 추구하는 자세다 이야기를 하는데, 여기에 관한 설명을 조금 더 주시고, 그다음에 그게 쉽지가 않잖아요. 알면서도 야 되게 내가 뭔가 바라는 게 있어. 그러면서도 초연한 자세를 유지한다는 게 굉장히 어떤 반대적인 거라서 일반 사람들이 이해하기가 쉽지가 않은데요. 그 부분에 관해서 우리 박사님께 좀 더 설명을 한번 여쭤보고 싶어요.
There's immature wanting that comes from the ego. And then there's the wanting of our legitimate needs to be met. We all have legitimate needs. A need is defined as a latent potential, that there's something within us that hasn't been activated yet. So what we really want is we want to activate our potential. And then there's an art of letting go. I've been talking about that recently. And that is, what are you letting go? There's two levels of letting go. One, you're letting go of that which doesn't serve you anymore. You're letting go of habits, conversations, gossip. You're letting go of things that are vibrating really low, so that it keeps you out of the higher levels of manifestation. And then you're letting go to joy. You're letting go to peace. You're letting go to love. You're surrendering to these higher frequencies. Now, surrender does not mean giving up. Surrender means I am yielding to the next version of myself. A caterpillar surrenders to the butterfly. Caterpillar doesn't give up life. It's surrendering to a higher aspect of itself, the next version of itself. So what does it do? It's letting go of its previous body. It's going into a chrysalis. It becomes a liquid, and then it yields to the butterfly. We're letting go of compulsive behaviors, defense mechanisms, coping mechanisms, closed heart, the way we protect ourselves. We're letting go of habits that don't serve us. And then that begins to become liquefied. Our life seems like it's going backwards, but then we let go to a higher frequency. We let go to love and to peace and harmony. We yield to it. We say yes to it. We give ourselves permission to grow into a higher level of ourself. And then what happens? Newness happens in our life. We become a new being. That being is already there. It's just covered up. You see, just as an avocado tree is within an avocado seed, but it needs to be in the right condition for the seed to surrender to the tree. Everything we could want and hope for and desire is already here, but we have to create the right condition for it to emerge. Letting go of what doesn't serve us, letting go to the higher frequencies. Again, meditation, affirmative, activated prayer, study, fellowship with individuals that are growing as well as you, so that you can grow through osmosis as well, gives birth to a greater expression of ourself. You see, if the condition is right, then the newness will happen. If you plant a seed in the soil, if the condition is right, the seed will grow into a tree. If you are the right condition, you'll grow into the greater version of yourself, and nothing can stop it. Nothing can stop it.
너무 멋진 비유 너무 감사드립니다. 저희가 책추남 나비스쿨이라고 이야기를 하는데 애벌레는 그 나비에게 자신을 이렇게 그러니까 내려놓아야 한다. 혹은 surrender란 단어를 어떻게 번역해야 될지 모르겠는데 항복해줘야 된다. 그런 개념의 이제 letting go가 두 단계가 있다고 설명해 주시는 게 굉장히 인상 깊고 환경만 조성만 된다면 그 무엇도 막을 수 없이 그런 것들은 탄생하고 되고 태어나게 된다. 그것이 창조되게 된다 하는 말씀이 너무 많이 와닿는 말씀이네요.
Yes, it is true. You know, a farmer can have a seed. A farmer's planting corn or whatever, and is casting the corn. But let's say some of that seed gets caught in its pocket. It doesn't get planted, but it will remain potent until one day the farmer finds it in his pocket and throws it. It will grow because the condition is right. So there's talents within us that may not have ever come forward. Doesn't matter how old we are, how young we are, when the condition is right, it'll emerge. And so the inner work that we're doing spiritually, doesn't matter how old a person is. They can be unsuccessful most of their life. But if they change the condition, then there'll be an emergence of more good than they can imagine.
네. 너무 감사하고, 네, 그러면 이 시크릿 질문은 제가 또 마지막 질문으로 이제 마무리를 좀 해볼까 하는데요. 그 컨디셔닝을 만들기 위해서 이제 어떻게 구체적으로 우리 데일리 라이프에서 하실지 제가 또 유튜브 영상을 봤더니 에너지 심리학을 사용하시는 것 같더라고요. 사이킥 K 이렇게 손 올려서 비저닝 하는 이런 어떤 구체적인 방법도 얘기를 방한하셨을 때도 주셨었던 것 같은데요. 정말 데일리 라이프에 누구나 everybody 모든 사람이 좀 쉽게 이러한 그 law of attraction 끌어당김의 법칙을 삶에 적용할 수 있는 팁이 있다면 좀 단계나 팁이 있다면 좀 설명을 부탁드릴게요.
Yeah, there's a number of things that people can do. One, when you go to, you can write down, you can script what you'd like to manifest in your life. First, you have to ask on your soul, you know, if this is really, really what you want. So you write it down. It can be for yourself, your family, maybe your health, maybe your family's prosperity, something. You write it down. And before you go to bed at night, you let that be the last thing that you read before you go to sleep. So the last thing you read before you go to sleep is not something from the news, not the newspaper, it's not your to-do list. It's not worry, doubt, fear. You're actually reading and even maybe saying out loud what you would like to bring into manifestation in your life. And you close your eyes and you feel that it's already happening, and then you go to sleep. And then you do the same thing when you first wake up in the morning. When you first wake up and you're a little bit sleepy, it's called the hypnagogic state. It's the state between sleep and awake. You read it and say it, so it bypasses the conscious blocks and goes right into your subconscious. You just do that on a regular basis, and now your subconscious mind is changing, and you start to become the vibrational condition, and things start to happen in the world that reflect what's happening within you. That's one thing. Another thing, we have to begin to develop a series of empowering questions. Empowering questions. Many people live with questions like, what's wrong? Who's to blame? Why me? Those are disempowering questions. It takes the mind down a downward spiral into negativity and fear and separation. So you stay out of disempowering questions and you ask empowering questions, such as, how can it get better than this? So if anything's going on in your life, something great, something not so great, ask the same question. How can it get better than this? The universe, by law, will answer that question. So if something is really going good, the ego may say, oh, it's about to get bad now. No, you just say, how can it get better than this? Or if something is not going too good, you say, how can it get better than this? And the law will answer that question. So you have to have a series of empowering questions. How can it get better than this? What good is here that I presently cannot see? What good is here that I presently cannot see? Your filters will start to be cleansed, and you'll start to see opportunity and possibilities where before you saw blockages. These are empowering questions. Third, find something every single day to be grateful for. Just cultivate the consciousness of gratitude. And then the universe, by law, will give you things to be grateful for. 4, share miracle stories. Most people share their complaints, what's bothering them. They vent on a regular basis. Nothing wrong with that, to get it out. But how many times do people actually share miracle stories? Something good really happened today. A coincidence. Something turned out better than you thought it was going to be. You don't have to share with everybody, but you have a couple of people that you could actually share your miracle stories to. And what's happening? You're creating the vibrational condition for the miraculous, not magic. A miracle is something that's already happening, but you just can't see it. So you created the condition to see the miraculous. Why? Because you're looking for it. What you look for, you help create. So those are 4 ways that we can begin to create the condition for emergence of more good in our life.
감사합니다. 듣는데 제 마음에 이렇게 뭐 기쁨이라고 할까요? 흡족함이 이렇게 만족스러움이 이렇게 쭉 퍼져나가는데요. 네, 정말 우리 요새 챗 GPT 여러분 잘 아시죠? 챗 GPT가 가장 좋은 질문을 해야 거기에 가장 좋은 답을 해주는 것처럼 우리 박사님께서도 정말 좋은 질문을 하는 것, 그리고 감사의 마음을 가지는 것, 그리고 또 정말 뭔가 더 좋은 것에 초점을 맞추는 것, 그리고 또 섹션에서 소개드렸던 여러분 어포메이션이라는 그 책도 있죠. 미래에서 현재로 질문하는 그런 질문들에 관해서 너무 뭐라고 할까요? 쉽지만 굉장히 인사이트풀하고 효과적인 방법들을 소개해 주신 것 같아요. 정말 점점 개인적으로 더 묻고 싶은 게 막 올라오긴 하는데, 또 아마 저희가 시간이 또 저희 감사하게 박사님께서 새벽 2시나 4시나 아니면 4시 6시에서 시간을 그래도 한국 아침 시간을 좀 맞춰 주셔 가지고 귀한 시간이라서 제가 조금 더 많은 질문이 있지만 조금 다음 질문으로 넘어가야 될 것 같아요. 그래서 다음 질문은 일단은 약간 전환 질문으로서 박사님 다음 책에 관한 질문과도 제 나름대로는 좀 연관이 되는 것 같긴 한데, 제가 박사님을 많이 기억했던 이유 중에 하나가 헤어스타일 때문이었는데요. 이 헤어스타일이 굉장히 궁극적으로 바뀌셔서 개인적으로 어떤 일이 또 아프리카 가셨을 때 제가 방송을 봤을 때 어떤 계기가 있었다고 했는데 그게 좀 궁금도 하고요. 거기다 이제 연결해서 책 제목이 한국에 곧 출간될 책 제목이 어떤 영적 자유함, 영적 자유라는 개념으로 이제 소개해 주시는 걸로 아는데, 거기에 연관된 질문으로는 그 책에 저는 굉장히 마음에 들었던 단어가 play evolving이라는 단어였는데, play evolving이라는 단어에 관해서 한번 책에 관해서 한번 좀 질문을 드리고 그 이후로 저희 구독자들 주신 질문으로 좀 자연스럽게 넘어가 볼게요.
Yeah. Yes. I shaved my head a few years ago. I was in northern Africa, otherwise known as Egypt, or as it's called, Kemet. And we began in the king's chamber and did a visioning and a meditation, and it was very profound. And throughout the entire trip, I was having these profound insights and awarenesses, and it culminated with an awareness that I was beginning again, that I was like having a rebirth, so to speak. And so I decided, because of this beginning again and this rebirth I was having, that I was going to cut off my hair in the king's chamber, the pyramid. But it was too dark in there to do it. So I did it as soon as I came back to the United States. As soon as the day I arrived back in the United States, I went to my friend, who happens to be a barber, having shaved off my hair to represent the new birth. And I never grew it back. I just shave it every day or every other day. And it's just been now a part of who I am now. It was really interesting because when I walked into my center, Agape International Spiritual Center, for the first time since coming back from Northern Africa, everyone stood up and started applauding. And I was so shocked that they were applauding because I cut off my hair. But they just started applauding and screaming, and it was a very beautiful, playful, beautiful day. And so you ask about plavolving, and that is evolving while playing. In other words, if you think about yourself, if you had a happy childhood, there was a sense of play, a sense of enthusiasm, a sense of spiritual curiosity. Even when kids play games, they're not attached to winning as much as they are to playing. Winning comes later when we become a little bit older. Then winning becomes important. I have to win. I have to beat you. I have to come in first, that type of thing. But when you're younger, you're just playing with your friends. You're not really trying to win. And so that's a state of consciousness, to just be in a sense of play. When you're in a sense of play, there's a lot of the great mystery that gets to be unfolding. It's like a lot of coincidences, a lot of serendipity, a lot of spontaneous goodness happens when you're in the spirit of playing. And so I called it plavolving. It's evolving while playing. In other words, in this grand universe, this multi-dimensional universe that keeps expanding, as we've seen with the new telescope, there's nothing serious going on, because there's no death, there's no true loss, there's no loss of energy. Energy is always transmuting itself into different frequencies and different dimensions. The cosmos reveals a great sense of order. It's playing with itself. It's in an ecstatic bliss, you see. And so evolving is evolving while seeking to maintain this state of reverential joy. A reverential joy. You're playing, but at the same time, your intention is to evolve and to unfold. So it's not serious. You're not pious. You're in a state of play. And that means you get to meet the things in the world that need changing. You get to meet it with compassion. You get to meet it with kindness. You get to meet it with forgiveness. It's a different way of being on the planet that we need to, as a species, grow into. in order to really cultivate a kind and just global society. So I coined the word plevolving as a
evolving.
yeah,
음.
evolving while playing.
그 개념이 너무 마음에 들었어요. 그래서 지금 책춘한 구독자님들이 굉장히 좋아하는 그 저자인 사이토 이토리도 인생은 유행, 놀유자에다 수행행자, 수행이 필요하지만 그것이 즐거움으로 가득 차야 된다. 이렇게 주신 말씀이나 아니면 또 그 닐라라는 그 개념이 있잖아요. 인도에. 그래서 그 개념과 좀 연관되는 개념으로 저도 잘 이해를 한 것 같은데요. 아, 근데 제 질문은 이건 거죠. 그 알겠는데 그 의식을 유지하기가 왜냐하면 세상을 바라볼 때 너무나 많은 뭐랄까 우리 일상사도 많은 스트레스 혹은 세상을 보더라도 끊임없는 전쟁이 끊이지 않고 어떤 사건 사고가 끊이지 않는 상황에서도 그러한 마음 상태를 플라이볼빙이라는 그 마음 상태를 유지할 수 있는 비결은 그럼 어떻게 해야 될까요?
Well, to maintain that state of consciousness, we first of all have to intend it. We have to establish an intention that this day I have the power to negotiate, to navigate through any challenge that comes in my direction. What I do in the morning is three things. I wake up and I become grateful for my life, for this gift of life. I'm grateful. Secondly, I um, I ask for the power to handle anything that comes to me with ease and with grace. So I do it gratitude. Oh, here it is, gratitude. I surrender to life. Then I ask for the power to handle anything that comes in my orbit. I call that my assignment. So whatever comes in my awareness is my assignment. So if some challenge comes, if somebody says something awful, if I see something on the news that I don't like, I take myself out of reacting to it from fear, and instead it becomes my assignment. My assignment might be forgiveness. My assignment might be compassion. My assignment might be to hold a space for an answer to be where the problem appears to be. But I try to teach people not to just react to everything, but to respond from a deeper place within you. Now that takes practice. Without a spiritual practice, it's difficult to not be swayed by the evidence of the world that the world is giving you about negativity. It's 24/7 on many news stations about the lowest common denominator of the human experience. So you have to be aware that there's something more powerful than that that's going on eternally. You have to tap into that so that you can see the temporary things going on in the world, but you're in tune with the eternal. And the eternal touches the temporary and changes it through you. So gratitude, surrender to life, ask for the power to handle any assignment that comes in your experience that day. And if you ask for that power, you'll get it. Going back to the questions again.
또 아주 구체적으로 세 가지로 또 말씀을 주셔서 또 결국은 남는 거는 practice 하는 게 우리에게 주어진 과제인 것 같습니다. 그래서 이렇게 그래도 우리 박사님 같은 분이 계셔서 정말 믿고 갈 수 있는 길이 있다라는 거를 명료하게 보여주시니까 좀 감사한 것 같고요. 근데 나머지 내용들은 우리 구독자분들이나 우리 독자분들께서 곧 이제 한국에 이제 출간 예정이라고 하시니까 제가 항상 아쉬웠거든요. 왜 박사님 책이 다른 곳에서는 이것저것 등장을 하시는데 박사님 책 한 권 한국에 좀 나와 있는 게 없는가 하고 좀 궁금하다. 어떤 생각들을 또 펼치는가 궁금하다 생각을 했는데 또 이렇게 한국에 곧 출간이 된다고 하니까 또 기대를 해 보도록 하겠습니다. 제가 이제 질문들은 이제 또 좀 더 자세하게 나오는 것들은 여러분 곧 출간된다고 하시니 네. 책을 통해서 또 그때 한번 또 책도 또 소개될 때 또 한번 이런 시간을 또 함께 해주시면 뭐 또 책을 또 함께 깊게 이해하는 데 도움이 되실 것 같고요. 자, 그럼 자연스럽게 우리 구독자님들께서도 또 우리 박사님께 질문을 주셨어요. 그래서 이거는 영어로 온 게 있고 한글로 온 게 있는데 한 5가지가 되는데 그 영어는 그냥 영어로 2개로 그냥 미국에 계신 우리 구독자님, 미국에 계신 우리 구독자님께서 우리 수님께서 질문을 주셨는데요. 네, 어, 2가지 퀘션이 이렇습니다. 첫 번째가 What has been the most memorable or formative experience in your spiritual journey? How it impacted your path? The first question, one of the questions, my subscriber is curious about your journey. And second, spiritually often involves profound moments of insight, but it can be filled with funny moments. Can you recall funny, unexpected experiences from your spiritual journey that would be willing to share? She loves the kind of things, humor. So
I've had a number of spiritual insights and revelations in the years I've been teaching. The first one, as an adult, I've had some when I was a child, but my first one was my awakening when I was attending USC college. And that particular experience changed my life forever. I was I was in a lucid dream for a long period of time, almost every night. And these 3 men were chasing me, but I always woke up in time before they could grab me. But every night they were a little bit closer. So then one night they were so close I could make out the features on their face. And I looked over to my right and there was a small tent, but thousands of people were trying to get into this tent. I knew every single person. And I said to myself, these men can't harm me because all of my friends are here. And then one by one, they all turned their back on me. 2 of the men held me down, and another man stabbed me in the heart with a serrated knife. The pain was excruciating, and I died. When I woke up, I could see differently. They were surrounded by this beauty and love and this intelligence. I could see in every direction. And the love that penetrated my being was so profound, and it changed my whole life. And that's when I began to study and meditate to discover what had happened to me. And then that's when I bumped into the mystical teachings of Jesus the Christ and Gautama the Buddha, Kuan Yin, and a number of mystics. I began to see the roots of mysticism that were in every culture. And that began my journey. So many, I have so many stories of my journey. I was one time I was sitting in my living room and I said, okay, what do you want me to do with this? Because people they wanted to hang around me and things like that. I said, what do you want me to do? I didn't have a job at the time. And the phone rang. And there was a woman on the phone that went to high school with me. And she said she saw my phone number in my in the album. When you graduate, you have a photo album. And she said the spirit told her to call me, that I could help her. So she would call me on the phone and I would counsel her. And then one day I saw her at a restaurant, and when she saw me, she ran away because she had been speaking to this anonymous voice on the phone, telling me her secrets and wanting me to help her. She was referring people to me. And then I remembered I didn't have that phone number in high school. My phone number was unlisted. No one could get my phone number. So she either had a mystical experience where my phone number appeared, or she lied and got it from somebody, but I don't know who she could have got it from because my phone number was unlisted. But I just laughed at it because it set me on my path to be of service to people. Now, the most recent experience I had was last January. I'm in meditate every day, so there's always something. I'm getting some kind of insights. But last January, I was about to do a Zoom class. And before I do anything, I meditate before I do anything. So I go into meditation And when I opened my eyes to go teach, I was blind. I couldn't see. All I could see was white light. I was surrounded by white light, and it was pulsating, it was energetic. It was just, but I couldn't see anything else. I couldn't see this world. All I could see was this light. So I said, I have to postpone the class. I have to sit with this. So I sat with it. And after a while, I could see in both dimensions, for lack of a better word. I could see the light, but I could also see my assistant Lee and the Reverend Kathleen, who was working with me. I could see them. And what I saw in them was this fountain of light inside of their being, like a fountain of light like this. And I realized that was their real identity, that we are the light, we're luminous. And this is the shell. This is the shell. We're actually luminosity shining through this shell. And that particular experience, insight, revelation, whatever you want to call it, left a lot of more remnants in me. It's like just a greater awareness of what I've already been teaching, but just a greater certainty that we are eternal beings, that have emerged from the eternal, that we're constantly unfolding to reveal the eternal nature of life, and that we are luminous, you see. So there's been many experiences that I've had that I think I'm going to write another book, and every chapter is going to be a different experience, and then I'll tell the law behind the experience and then the practice to do in order to make oneself available to it. Yeah. That's just a couple of experiences.
Yeah. Wow, great. There is also just she asked the second question. Yeah, funny or that is funny moments. Can you any unexpected experiences from your spiritual journey?
After service, sometimes, I would stand and shake people's hands and, hug them as they leave. So one day I was doing it, and this man came in front of me, and I started talking to him. I said, "Oh yeah, how did?" And I'd been counseling him, so I was asking him, "How did this situation turn out?" It looked to me that everything unfolded perfectly, and I was, giving him all these details about his life and wanted to know what had happened. And he stared at me, and I said, "What's wrong?" He says, "I've never met you before. This is my first time at Agape." And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I've been dreaming with you." He's been in my dream. I've been counseling him in my dreams.
Really?
And yeah, and he was like shocked that I knew all these things about him,
Mhm.
and like private details. And I said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to," but I had forgotten that that was a dream. But when I saw him in line, it was like, "Oh yeah, we've been counseling," but it hadn't. So it was funny to, it wasn't so funny to him immediately, but it became funny later, that
Yeah,
and
very
that
mysterious.
used to happen a lot when I used to work at a prayer ministry, and the
Mm.
people that would call the prayer ministry, I would dream about them the night before and actually pray for them in the dream, and then they would call, and I would know I already know what they were going to ask because I'd already met with them and beyond time and space,
Mm.
And it's funny, but
Yeah,
not ha ha ha. It's just like, you know,
yeah,
sweet
yeah.
that we can
Wow.
actually transcend time and space, because telepathy is the extension of time, extension of consciousness into space. Intuition is the extension of consciousness into time.
Mm.
So we can actually extend into time and space and remove that and know things instantly. Again, there has to be an intention to wake up in your meditation practice.
음.
Yeah.
놀라운 경험이시고 이거는 자꾸 이제 의식 레벨이 자꾸 올라가면서 나타나는 어떤 현상들이 것 같아요. 그래서 재미있고 놀라운 의견이신데요. 자, 그래서 그다음 구독자님 좀 비슷한 질문 또 좀 주셨어요. 이렇게 주셨는데요. 지금의 깨어남이 있기 이전에 어린 시절 겪었던 어려움이나 힘들었던 경험이 있으셨나요? 어떤 계기로 지금의 길을 확고히 걷게 되었나요? 이렇게 질문을 주셨어요.
When I had my awakening as an adult, I did not think that I was going to be a public person. So ultimately, I had to give up a lot of resistance to doing that. So I was seeing people one-on-one. I was a spiritual therapist. I was having clients. I was on the faculty at the university. So I was teaching. I was doing workshops. The inner voice said that I was to start a community. I didn't want to start a community. I loved my weekends off. I didn't want to do it. And so what happened was my world started to close down. A lot of things began to happen. And then I was told that I made a promise before I got here to start a community. And that if I did not start the community, there was no reason for me to be on the planet any longer. And that was very clear to me. And so I began to surrender to my destiny. Now, in another lucid dream, I was walking down the street, and in the dream, I was really small. And I came in close proximity to this large building. And there was all these people in the building. And there was a lot of love and joy and music. And there was people from everywhere. And the voice inside said, "This is what we want you to do." And I said, "But I'm so small. How can I do that?" And they said, "You say yes, and we'll do the rest." So then I began to have visions about Agape International Spiritual Center. And I began to say yes to it. And then what I needed showed up. The people I needed for my vision group, resources, supply, things started to show up once I said yes. And so the difficulty was my own resistance. There was not a lot of trauma in my childhood. I think I always wanted to be of service to humanity. I got that from my mother. My mother was very active. And but I didn't ever think I would be a spiritual teacher, because in the early days, I didn't believe any of that stuff, you know. So when it hit me, it was like a shock. Wow, the spiritual world is more real than the physical world, you know, and I couldn't deny it. Yeah. I hope I'm answering the question.
그러면 어린 시절부터 약간 지금 제가 딴 쪽에서도 이제 지금 이렇게 기록들을 보면 그 이런 어떤 다른 사람보다 뭔가를 좀 이렇게 직관적으로 인식하거나 어떤 이런 체험들이 많이 일어나시는 편이었던 건지 이것도 좀 궁금하고요. 그다음에 그럼 결국은 박사님께서는 지금 이런 삶이 펼쳐질 거라고 내 개인적인 어떤 나로서는 상상해 본 적이 없었는데 그는 내면에서 들려오는 그 이너 보이스를 따라가다 보니 내면의 소리를 따라가다 보니 여기에 이르시게 됐다는 의미로 이해하면 될지 궁금해지네요.
Yes, as a small child, I had some mystical experiences, but I would seek to normalize myself, to be normal like everyone else. I didn't want to stand out. And I knew something had happened, but I didn't know what it was, so I would kind of shrink myself. As an example, when I was 11, I was in Washington, D.C., because I was born in Washington, D.C., and that's where my family was from. But my father moved us to Los Angeles. But I would go back to D.C. to see the family during the summer. So on my 11th birthday, I went to a supermarket for my grandmother. And as I was shopping, I was in one aisle, and I could see in my mind that the stock boy was going to drop a bottle of baby food in the aisle next to me. He hadn't dropped it yet, but I could see that he was going to. So I ran around and I caught it before it hit the ground. And then he said, "How did you know?" And I couldn't explain it. I said, "I don't know. I just saw it." So I'm on my way home with the groceries. My mother and my grandmother and my uncle are sitting on the stoop outside. And I could see that my mother was looking at her son. My grandmother was looking at the grandson. And my uncle was looking at his nephew. But I knew I wasn't any of that. I was something else. I was bigger than all of that. And my mind was like going crazy. How am I going to relate to these people that don't know who I am? And so I got closer and closer and closer, and I decided to shrink to become the son, the grandson, and the nephew. I became what I thought they wanted me to be. So I had experiences like that growing up. And then when I was an adult, the one I explained, when that happened, I could never get back in the box again. When I was stabbed in the heart and I woke up to this luminous beauty and love, I could never get back in. So all during my childhood, teenage, I could stay normal and sometimes go overboard in things just to be normal with everyone else. But once that happened, I couldn't do it anymore. And I lost all my friends. When I woke up, they all thought I was weird, they thought I'd freaked out on Jesus and all this mystical stuff, and they didn't want to have anything to do with me. And so I was by myself until other individuals began to come into my life that resonated with that frequency. Yeah.
Wow. Wonderful. 네, 아주 잘 들었습니다. 그리고 두 가지 질문 또 박사님 두 가지 질문이 구독자 두 분이 이제 또 했는데 하나는 또 재밌는 질문이세요. 네빌 고다드의 책을 이렇게 봤더니 네빌이 결혼을 할 때 Law of Attraction을 사용해가지고 이렇게 끌어당김의 법칙을 사용해가지고 아내를 이렇게 만나게 된 내용이 있는데 실제로 우리가 원하는 배우자를 이렇게 원하는 대로 이렇게 하는 게 할 수 있느냐 또 혹은 할 수 있다 해도 그것이 맞다고 생각하느냐 또 그 이후의 결과는 어떠냐 이런 식의 재밌는 질문을 또 하나 주셨어요. 네.
Say that last part again. Even if we attract the right one.
그리고 하나 더 그것이 그렇게 하는 게 바른 거냐 다른 사람을 조작하는 게 아니냐 그 사람의 자유의지와 상관없이.
Yeah. The real way that works is that you're actually becoming the right person, so that your soulmate or the person you're going to be with meets you on the same vibration. So you can visualize and try to get the right person or manipulate. But if you're not becoming the right person, even if that person comes into your life, it may not be sustainable. It may not work out because you're not becoming the right person. You cannot force somebody else to make you happy. That's not their job. That's your job to be happy. Your job is to be joyful. Your job, and then you bring that to a relationship. So many people are trying to stay the same and change the world, or stay the same and change other people. No, if you want to bring a mate into your life, you're basically saying you're willing to vibrate at the level of love and compassion and joy, and you want to bring that to a relationship. And then there's somebody else, they're saying the same thing. And then you end up bringing each other into the orbit of each other, and you recognize each other on a soul level, you see. And it's not manipulation at that point. You're actually opening yourself up to being the right being. And then you meet, and in reality, quantumly, you've already met on the invisible level. And then some kind of way, the universe shows up as the right condition for you to meet physically, but you've already met on the invisible side of life, you see.
네. 그러니까 right person이 되는 것, 네가 먼저 좋은 사람이 되는 것이 먼저라는 것. 네, 그리고 그런 것들이 가장 포인트인 것 같아요. 주신 말씀 중에. 네, 알겠습니다. 여기 마지막 구독자분의 제티엔콩님의 또 퀘션인데요. 수많은 영성을 수행하는 사람들을 만나보셨고 질문도 받아보셨을 텐데요. 사람들이 가장 많이 헤매고 헷갈려하는 부분은 어디였나요? 이런 질문 주셨어요.
Oftentimes people make God in a human image. They'll put human qualities onto God. They'll think God is mad or possessive or upset or manipulative or jealous. They'll read a misinterpretation in the Bible or something like that, and they have to grow to an understanding that we're dealing with a presence of love and intelligence that doesn't change, and we're seeking to be in alignment with this presence that doesn't change. And then the changeless within us starts to show up. And so a lot of people have superstitious thoughts about this Superman in the sky that doesn't exist. That's not real. That's superstition. There's a presence that's never an absence. So a lot of people's fears and doubts and worries are coming from a belief in a God that needs anger management. You know, and so they have all these fears and all these mistakes they've made in their life, and they think they're going to go to hell and that there's God that's going to do these things. That's all superstitious. It's all superstition. Once you open up and see the light, there's no God like that. God is love. You don't even have to use the word God. There's just love. There's just love and intelligence everywhere. And so once people begin to come out of superstitious thinking, they begin to grow, you see. Now, and the question you brought up earlier, they think that what we're doing is magic. It's not magic, nor is it mental manipulation. We're actually seeking to come into an alignment with the is, the presence. So it literally changes our life. It changes our perspective, our point of view, our perception. And when our perception changes, our experience changes. Life doesn't change. Life is still life. But our perception changes. And then our life experience changes.
제가 감사합니다. 제가 드리고 싶은 질문은 이거예요. 제가 볼 때 굉장히 귀한 인류에게 보내주신 훌륭하신 메신저 중에 한 분이라는 생각이 드는데요.
I want individuals to know that they represent a field of infinite potential. That's what they represent. And that they are here in this incarnation to activate and express their potential. They are to follow their own heart, cultivate the ability through deep listening to hear their own soul, their own inner spirit, so that they can activate potential. When you begin to activate potential, the other stuff comes. You have better health, you have better sense of well-being, greater opportunities for prosperity, a greater level of friendships. But if you're wrapped up in yourself, you know, as the old saying goes, an individual is wrapped up in themselves makes a very small package. So we don't want to be wrapped up in a little self. We want to activate potential. We want to ask, how can I serve? If you ask, how can I serve? You'll activate potential and you'll have more to give, which will also bring about prosperity.
감사합니다.
Thank you.